and welcome to the LothCatCafe. I am K3N8. You may call me Nate. Please find a seat wherever you would like, and our hosts will be with you shortly. Oh, and please watch your step. Our Lothcats like to lay around.
Why, thank you, Nate, and hey there, LothCat lovers. Welcome to the cafe. I am Ryan, your host for this evening, and welcome to the LothCatCafe, a Star Wars and cat lovers podcast dedicated to providing a fun and positive Star Wars experience where we can all chat, laugh, and learn together. Now, Zach is not available to join us this evening, so we have a little something different for you. We wanted to give you a full rundown of the life and story of Maul, and who better to give that to us than Maul himself? That's right. Today I am interviewing the tattooed and horned master of anger, facial tattoos, and scary cool acrobatics himself. But first, we're going to cover the latest Star Wars news and releases. We're going to have my little Lothcat update, and for the main course, we're going to dive right into this interview because Maul is looking at me with those menacing eyes, and I would like to make it out of here unscathed if possible. So, let's get to it. The LothCatCafe presents Star Wars News. A new trailer was released for Maul this week for Maul Shadow Lord. It looks phenomenal. Now a reminder, this comes out on April 6th, and it's focusing on Maul rebuilding his criminal empire. So at this point, we do get to see that there's a surviving Jedi Padawan that's becoming part of the story that it looks like Maul is going to try to sink his teeth into to try to bring into his revenge plot. So we are going to get to see him and his manipulative strategies, so very Sith-like, which is going to be pretty cool. And we're also going to get the appearance of the Inquisitor Marok, so that is going to be particularly awesome. A reminder, we could see Marok in Ahsoka. He was more of that kind of, gas Inquisitor, the flatulence of the dark side. Now, unconfirmed just yet, but reports are saying that Grogu will not speak in The Mandalorian and Grogu. Not overly surprising, but he did make a fun cameo moment in the Oscars this week with Sigourney Weaver, who is going Ripley on Kate Hudson. This is a family-friendly podcast, so I won't say the quote, but if you've seen Aliens, then you can probably guess what I'm talking about pretty quickly. Releases this week. On March 24th, we've got the trade paperback edition. It's about 104 pages of Star Wars Hyperspace Stories Codebreaker. It's going to collect issues 1 through 4. It's going to be following X-Wing pilot Poe Dameron and his trusty little beeping droid companion BB-8. That should be a lot of fun because BB-8 is adorable. So if you're looking for a whole bunch of issues all in one in trade paperback edition, that's the way to go. And we're not done with these compilations just yet because we also have Cavan Scott's Tales from the Nightlands coming out. Another Dark Horse Comics. This is also on March 24th, 96-page hardcover that is going to be covering a Star Wars horror story. So, if you're in the mood for something creepy, check that out. All in one compilation. It captures issues 1 through 3. And for those of you who are still craving a little bit of High Republic, we do have another comic coming out by George Mann, and this one is called The High Republic Adventures Pathfinders #1. It's going to be the first of a 6-issue series, and the publisher's summary is as follows. 20 years after Phase 2 of the High Republic, a brand new team of Republic Pathfinders is dispatched to a distant corner of the galaxy to investigate the strange death of a Jedi Master. But as the team wades into the web of mystery, they discover not everything about this mission is as it seems. Can the team save the day and solve the Jedi's mysterious demise? So, for those of you craving some High Republic news and stories, we got you covered. And that is going to be coming out on March 25th. And for those of you wondering about my little Lothcat Werther, he is doing well. He has gotten a clean bill of health that has us all very relieved. He's lost a little bit of weight, which we were trying to do, so that's been all very successful. I am currently recording from home at the moment, so he is staring me down as I'm recording because I am interrupting his favorite nap time. I am recording in the morning right now, which is when the sunspot that he loves is at its best and warmest and toastiest, and I am ruining it. So, thank you all for bearing with us, and please thank Werther, too, for sharing his time with us. So that's enough housekeeping, I think. I think it's time to dive right into this, shall we? So, Maul. Darth Maul, previous apprentice to Darth Sidious, Lord Maul, the Shadow, the Night Brother, the Old Master. You've been known by so many names. What would you prefer to be called?
Just Maul will suffice.
Very well, Maul it is. It is great to have you here.
Yes, the pleasure is all yours.
Right. Well, coming up soon, on April 6th, we will receive the next chapter in this story of Maul, and the rumblings through the galaxy mention that you are being referred to as Shadow Lords. That's pretty cool. There are many questions that our listeners have leading up to this, starting with the obvious. After the events that occurred in the Royal Palace of Theed, in the power generator complex, how on Coruscant are you still alive?
That story has been told over the galaxy for 13 years. Do you mean to tell me that there are those who do not know this history?
Well, not everyone has had the time to put their focus into galactic history. You know, there are lives to live, not everyone's into animation.
What is this animation?
Well, that's actually a fair question. It's kind of a story that's captured through rapidly displaying a sequence of still images with art. So drawings, computer generation, even puppets, several different forms of animation. A lot of people who do not fully understand or appreciate the art involved with these, they think these stories are focused mainly on kids and young adult viewership.
You're telling me that my life, my struggle...
Maul, buddy, you agreed not to yell and not to get angry.
My struggle has been told only to children?
No, not only. There's a pretty loyal fan base of adults that were glued to the TV every week to keep up to date.
So you're saying I have followers?
In a manner of speaking, yeah.
This pleases me.
Anyway, why don't we just start at the beginning?
Wow, you are good at this.
I'm sensing a little sarcasm, but we're just gonna roll right past that. So, Maul, from what I see here, you were born in 54 BBY. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you weren't always called Maul, were you?
Maul was a given name, not what I was born with, but it is true, I cannot remember my own born name.
I'm sorry to hear that, Maul, but just for funsies, if you were to pick a name, what would you pick?
I do not waste time with such trivial matters. If I were forced to choose a new name, I would take it from a being whose existence I ended in battle.
Huh. Well, let's not go down that road just yet. Now, you look like a Maul to me, so I think that suits you quite well. You were born on the fairly uninviting world of Dathomir, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
So for those unfamiliar, Dathomir is a fairly remote planet that has a strong presence from the dark side of the Force. It is also known as the Rancor planet, and it is the home of the Night Sisters and the Night Brothers. And can you tell us about your relationship to Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters?
Talzin was my mother.
And you had two blood brothers, correct?
Yes, Feral and Savage Opress.
And how was your relationship with your family?
Well, seeing as they are all dead, I would say my relationship is non-existent.
I'm sorry to hear that, Maul. If this is too difficult to talk about, we can stop, but if you're willing to keep going, would you be willing to tell me a little bit more about your relationship with Talzin?
It was pretty standard, really. When I was young, before my first birthday, in fact, she gave me my first tattoos.
Before your first birthday? Is that normal?
Yes, it is a type of rite of passage on my homeworld. We don't talk about our secrets much. After that, most of my memory involves taking care of my brother. Mother was often away. The Night Sisters demanded all that she had. She often met with a man who I later learned to be the man who eventually became my master. But at that time, we knew him only as Darth Sidious.
What was it like seeing Darth Sidious hanging around your mother like that? I mean, that must have been really frightening.
I must confess that, as a youngling, his presence concerned me. Sidious and Mother would exchange secrets. Sidious would give her knowledge of the dark side of the Force, and Mother would exchange knowledge of the magics and arcana of the Night Sisters.
Not all of it, I hope.
Never. But either way, it was enough power
given to extremely dangerous hands. Yikes. So, moving on a bit, I could use some clarification about this because what I've heard doesn't quite add up. When you were about 14 years old, Talzin had told that Sidious betrayed her and stole you away from her. Can you shed some light on this? That is not correct, but not entirely incorrect. Sidious ordered my mother to give me up to a keeper. What exactly is a keeper? Well, this particular keeper took me away from my mother without the option to say my goodbyes. He kept me in a pit for some time. In a pit? My gosh, that is horrible. You do not know horrible. He eventually moved me into his home where I was tested by the keeper's 2 sons. I found out later that this was all a test from Sidious, all to bring out the anger in me. And it worked. I began to resent my mother for abandoning me. I used my hatred and anger to practice the dark side of the Force every chance I could get. Once the other 2 realized that their beatings no longer affected me, they left me alone. So when exactly did Sidious come back into the picture? Sidious came back one day to test the Night Brothers, seeking a warrior apprentice. My keeper would not allow me to participate, but I broke out and followed anyway. I saw Sidious and my mother. I allowed all of my anger, my hatred, my resentment to flow through every part of my body, and I removed the 2 brothers from the competition, as well as my keeper. Sidious seemed pleased with the result, and he declared me the winner. From there, he took me from Dathomir, and I was to become his apprentice. That's right. So tell me about being under Sidious's tutelage. There's not much to tell, really. He neglected me, manipulated me, and trained me to be a weapon of the Sith, a type of acrobatic warrior. Oh, is that all? In a woolly nutshell. Well, you are famous for your use of a double-bladed lightsaber. Did you just look at a regular lightsaber and say, yeah, I want 2 of those? The lightsaber is something that is very personal to me. I crafted it myself with plans that my master had hidden in the forgotten entrance to the Sith archives. I built it only with pieces that I had acquired. Great waves of blood and pain, not necessarily my own, went into creating my lightsaber. So, speaking of pain, you exhibited a lot, and I mean a lot, of hatred towards the Jedi. I was always under the belief that they were responsible for some kind of pain or traumatic experience that you felt in your childhood, but after talking to you today, it seems that that wasn't exactly the case. So, where did your anger towards the Jedi actually come into play? Well, during my training, my master had taken me to a planet called Malachor to bear witness to the great battle between the Jedi and Sith. There I breathed in the ashes of the Sith warriors who were mercilessly slaughtered by the Jedi. I felt every slash, every burn, every death of my Sith brethren. After that, I focused all of my energy, all of my hatred, and I turned it into power. I mean, I get that you may have wanted revenge for the slaughter of your people, but that was a millennium before then. I feel like there had to have been something else, like, maybe some kind of other resentment? No. Maul, come on, buddy. Maybe I had a little resentment that the Jedi never came for me as a child. They did not find me worthy enough to join the Jedi Order. Yep. See, now we're getting somewhere. Now, tell me about your first experience with the Jedi. It wasn't with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, was it? No, it was not. Several years into my training, I spent time stalking the Jedi Kat Queen and her pathetic little apprentice. I was getting impatient, however, and tried to satiate my bloodlust by fighting big game like Rathtar's Antoine Kiti and fighting pirates. In fact, it was from them that I received some interesting information from a pirate who foolishly mistook me as a Jedi. It turns out that the Zrexud cartel was auctioning a Jedi Padawan off to the highest bidder. I worked with a group of bounty hunters to find this auction and got me an invitation. We infiltrated the auction, but crash-landed on the Drazkel moon, where the bounty hunters betrayed me. I took a calculated risk and gave the Jedi Padawan Eldrakitis a lightsaber, and we fought together to defeat the traitors. We defeated the hunters, and then we faced off on our own. Whoa, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. Who won? Me. Obviously. Right. Obviously. Shortly after, my master became concerned with my side projects and brought me back to Malachor to continue my training. So what then? I mean, how did your master decide that it was time to reveal yourself to the Jedi? My master had sensed a disturbance. 2 Jedi interfering with his plans on the planet Naboo. So he sent me, his weapon, to hunt them. I tracked them across the desert world of Tatooine. There, I encountered one of them. Now that was Qui-Gon Jinn, correct? Yes, and a child I learned later to be named Anakin Skywalker was with them, though I did not yet understand the significance of that boy. Me and Qui-Gon, we fought briefly. A test. I found Qui-Gon's strength. But he fled before I could finish him. Jedis have always been cowards. But no matter, the hunt would continue. Everything unfolded as my master planned. The Queen returned to Naboo, and the Jedi returned with her. So I waited. In the shadows of Theed, I ignited my blade, red as the blood that would spill that day. I faced them both, Qui-Gon and his apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The battle was fierce. They fought as one, but I was something more. Something they could not possibly have predicted or comprehended. In the depths of the palace, our duel became something greater, something inevitable. Qui-Gon fell first. I struck him down. At last, a Jedi Master defeated by my hand. Oh, I cannot tell you the feeling of elation I felt as I paced in front of his apprentice, distraught from his loss. But victory was incomplete. The apprentice, Kenobi, he gave into his anger, his fear, and desperation, and in that moment, he became dangerous. We fought above the abyss. I took the upper hand, and he was all but defeated as he clung for life. But then he leapt. A desperate move, but not without its power. He seized Qui-Gon's weapon and struck. I was cut into 2, cast into the depths. The Jedi believed me dead. But they were wrong. Yes, they were wrong. Well, Maul, I think I've taken up enough of your time today. I do really want to thank you for speaking to me about your journey so far, and I hope that you're going to come back to continue our interview. You have such an incredible story, a very interesting story that's just so full of twists and turns, and I would love to see all the way from A to Z how you got to where you got before the next chapter of your story is told in April. Of course, I would be more than happy to terrify you with more of my tales. Anyway, where can you find us? We're at LothCatCafe on Facebook at LothCatCafe. Join the LothCatCafe community group. We're on Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, and Reddit. We're going to see you next week for the next chapter of On Call with Maul, where we are going to learn more about Maul's backstory from his own words. How did he survive? How did he become with the Mandalorians? And so much more. Now, don't forget to get your submissions in for next week's LothCat of the Week. You can send us a message on any of our socials, and feel free to message us with any questions that you want to hear us discuss on the show. Please rate and subscribe. It really does help us out a lot. It helps us get out there. And we're going to see you next week. Goodbye, everybody. We love you. We'll see you next time.